Jane Adventures Lost in Time, the fifth story of Series 4, is written by Rupert Light and starring Elizabeth Sladen, Daniel Anthony and Anjali Mahindra, making the first appearance of Cyril Neroni as the shopkeeper and his pet parrot called Captain. So outside the shop, Sarah Jane, Clyde and Ronnie reading newspaper of aliens sighted at local shop. So the gang went inside and looking at items. Obviously there's a parrot there. Clyde picks an arrow up that has blood stain on, so shopkeeper sends the gang on a quest to find 3 items in different times. This is like a video game, which I like. The gang didn't want to, but the shopkeeper forced them into different time. They only have until the hourglass runs out. Cyril Neroni played the shopkeeper, self-described servants of the universe, and there to put them in the right order, just like the Doctor. He has a parrot called Captain, and I think the characters are great. They should bring him back for Doctor Who, as it would be great to explore more of those characters. And shopkeeper meeting the Doctor, would that be cool? I love his clickings when he controls the time windows like that. So Ronnie ended up in the Tower of London in 1553, and a maid called Ellen said that Ronnie needs to change her clothes to see Queen Jane, so she does. Ronnie looks great in that dress and meets Queen Jane, and I really enjoyed the banter between the two. So later on, Matilda and Ellen came in with a scroll, and apparently Jane is to be executed because she made a false claimant to the throne. This really happened, and it's really sad the fact that she's only 16 or 17. Too young, man. Ronnie overhears Lady Matilda's plan to kill Jane. Amber Beatty played Lady Jane Grey, who was the Queen of England for 9 days. Because of her false claimant to the throne, she ended up beheaded for punishment. Horrible. The actress did a great job. She is a likeable queen. So Sarah Jane ended up in 1889 in the cupboard, and Emily mistakes Sarah Jane as a ghost. Emily believes there's a ghost in the house, and Sarah Jane assured her that there's no such thing as ghosts. Gwyneth Kayworth played Emily Morris, who's an investigator of ghosts, who lost her mum in the fire. She's done a great job as well. So the clock strikes 8, and that's where haunting begins. As they heard voices, they learned that it's the people from the future. The room was hot, which is why temperature in there is different, and they wanted to save the children from the burning room. This is scary. Clyde is in the sandy dunes in 1941 and couldn't get any network on his phone, obviously. So a kid called George asks Clyde to get down, otherwise the Nazis will see him. As they run to the church, the telephone is dead, so the Nazis came in. So Clyde and George hide, but Lieutenant Koenig found them and taking them hostage, which is a scary approach. As Clyde and George tied up to the chair, they untied the rope and escaped. Just after the Nazis came in, and the shopkeeper tells Captain that if they don't return soon, they'll be trapped in the past forever. Richard Whisker played George Woods, who's a British soldier in World War II, who's only 13. Catherine Bailey played Miss Wickham, a double agent pretending to be a school teacher. Tom Flashyha played Lieutenant Koenig, who's a leader of a group of Nazi soldiers in the beach. The casts did really well. The music in this story is fantastic. Clyde and George outrun the Nazis and ran to Miss Wickham. She claims that the village is surrounded by Germans and they need to go back inside the church, as they're armed as well. Miss Wickham ran in the church and shouting at Nazis to put their hands up. So Clyde and George went in. They're happy for a moment until when she reveals to be a Nazi spy. Shopkeeper couldn't close the time window. Nazi plans to be undetected by British so they can win the war. So Clyde uses his phone as a bomb to fool them. George grabs Thor's hammer ornament from the transmitter and rang the church bell to alert home guards, which scared the Nazis away. So Clyde said goodbye to George after he says he wants to be a soldier and gets told to wait for the home guard. Matilda is about to use a dagger on Lady Jane, so Ronnie disarms her. Apparently she's a Protestant like Jane, not a Catholic, and Matilda says Jane's death would have inspired thousands. Jane gave Ronnie the permission to go home, but Ronnie wanted to stay and comfort Jane, which is nice. Sadly, Ronnie and Jane has to say goodbye to each other when she leaves, and we obviously know what's going to happen to Jane. Oh, man, this is heartbreaking. She doesn't deserve to be executed. Sarah Jane turns the clock to 8, so her and Emily sees Gemma, a babysitter from the future who was supposed to look after the children, but she locks them in the bedroom and they found a key. Sadly, they can't touch it because of wrong time zone. So they went through and sees kids knocking over the candles, causing the whole room on fire, which frightens Emily because of the connection of her mum's death. So after saving children's lives, Emily concentrates on her mum so she can pick the key up and give to Sarah Jane. As Sarah Jane disappears, Emily wanted her to stay. She accidentally took the key off her, so the gang came back to the shop in their time, put ornament and dagger in the briefcase, while we get an intense moment where the earth was about to get sucked into the vortex. A woman, Angela Price, not that Angela Price, who's Emily's granddaughter, played by Rowena Cooper, Terran Hardiman's wife, came in and gave Sarah Jane the keys, so the shopkeeper put it in the briefcase. The time window has closed. It reveals that it was Captain who sent the gang on the quest. Shopkeeper and Captain disappeared, so while Sarah Jane has a chat with Angela Price, Clyde does a research about George, who joined the army after the Nazis were captured and knighted by Queen Elizabeth II in the recent years, and Ronnie searched up Jane's happy final moments. I really enjoyed this story. It's well written and acted. What did you think? Let me know in the comments down below. Thanks as always for watching, people. See you in the next video.